When I first began conducting research for my PhD thesis in math, I envisioned someday solving a problem that no one had solved before, proving a complicated theorem or two using sophisticated mathematical tools, and owning results that I could call only my own. As I progressed through my research, I failed and hit dead ends many times. It often felt like I would work on something for months and months, only to make very small strides towards my end goal. I compared my research to that of accomplished mathematicians who had been in their field for many years. If I solved something with the help from a collaborator, I couldn't help but think it didn't count since I didn't do it on my own. Ultimately, my main dissertation result was a technique for obtaining solutions to a problem, not an actual solution. It wasn't the original result I had set out to obtain, but after 4 years of grinding and committing myself to a single problem, countless meetings with my advisor, and a lot of self-care, I had my results. I recall after my preliminary oral exam thinking to myself, this doesn't seem like very much about the work I had presented. While I had to learn and understand my area of study very deeply, the actual proofs of my theorems were surprisingly simple, and they relied on foundational tools that I had taken for granted as I studied more and more advanced complex mathematics. I expressed this concern to my advisor, and he reminded me that some of the most important theorems in math have the most simple proofs, and that's an elegant thing. Had I not done a year of service, I'm not sure I would have understood how to navigate many of the challenges I faced in graduate school. I recall attending Indie Corps orientation, interacting with people who had been engaged in community work for years, and envisioning all of the things I would accomplish in a single year. I saw myself solving problems in my community using my expertise and coming up with sophisticated new ideas on my own. It wasn't long, of course, before I was brought back down to earth. I quickly realized that, 1, I wasn't going to single-handedly solve every issue my community faced in 1 year, and 2, that wasn't even why I was there. Eventually, I was able to shift my perspective. I focused on small strides and simple ideas, using what was available to me in my community. I accepted that things wouldn't go as planned and I would fail many times. I also focused on collaboration, seeking support from those who had been living and working in my community for decades, and did so with humility. I accepted that it didn't matter whether I achieved something alone or with help if something was achieved. Just like after my preliminary exam, at the end of my fellowship year, I recall thinking, wow, I didn't do very much. I'm still not sure how to quantify what I did during my year, but I'm also not really concerned with doing so. Ultimately, looking back, while I may not have solved a problem in my community, I can hope that I left behind some techniques that may eventually lead to solutions. Now I teach math, and every semester I encounter hundreds of students who dread math class because they have been trained to believe that 1, you're only good at math if you can find solutions right away, and 2, good solutions are long and complicated. While it saddens me to see so many students trained to dislike math, in my own classes I hope to help my students shift their perspectives just as I learned to do during my fellowship year. I remind them that everything they learn in math is just another tool in their toolkits, and they can use all of the tools they have available to them. I stress that not all solutions have to be fancy and complicated, and sometimes the most elegant solutions are found by just going back to the basics. I also encourage them to slow down and work with their classmates and design activities that focus on the process of problem solving as opposed to the solution itself. When I think about what I want my students to take away from my classes, it's not necessarily specific content from a set syllabus. Instead, I want them to appreciate the process of problem solving and also appreciate all of the tools in their toolkits, even the most basic. I was fortunate to have learned this during my fellowship and hope to pass these learnings on to my students.